Do you want a fresh 2025 NFL mock draft right after the Super Bowl ends? If you do, type me in the comments section of today's show. This video and that mock draft will be posted on both the NFL Draft by Chat Sports channel and the Chat Sports YouTube channel. The channel with the most comments might get it first. Spam me right now. The 2025 Senior Bowl has wrapped up, so we're breaking down winners and losers and spending a good amount of time on the quarterbacks as well. Always a fun video to do. Let's dive into it, starting positive. Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman at North Dakota State. A little slow start to the game itself, but had a fantastic week of practice. Can pretty much play all 5 spots along the offensive line, whether he's a center or a guard most likely in the NFL, we shall see. But he played very well against better competition, was named Practice Player of the Week. I would argue that, and I think most people around the draft would, the practices matter even more than the games themselves. Didn't get beat very much in pass protection. A little bit of penalty problems maybe work on there as well. But both Daniel Jeremiah and Dane Brugler giving him some round 1 buzz, which I find very intriguing. Stick with the green team. Mike Green. I didn't mean to make the green name and green team pun. I apologize. The edge rusher from Marshall. Not all the guys played in the game itself because not everyone needed to. Mike Green is going to be a top 20 pick in the NFL draft. I'm convinced of that. Dominant year for Marshall and continued to showcase stuff during the Senior Bowl practices. You probably saw the bull rush on Josh Connerly, who actually overall had a pretty good week, but Mike Green just sent him into the next dimension. That is a very talented player who has a chance to be the first player from the Senior Bowl drafted this year. Some other front 4 players I want to give some love to. Shemar Stewart, Walter Nolan, Donovan Ezaraku. Early in the week practices had pretty good performances. Stewart is a very freaky, gifted player. And then in the game itself, especially on the national team side, boy, things were impressive. Savion Jones played for the American. That's the LSU pass rusher. He had 2 TFLs and a half sack. He got Gray Zabel several times early in that game. On the national team side, 7 sacks by 5 players. David Walker had one. Landon Jaxson had one. Also kind of got a pressure that led to another one. Had a forced fumble on that sack as well. By the way, Oli Odejo out of UCLA had 2 sacks. Junior Tafuna had 2 sacks as well. Josh Joyner had a sack as well for Minnesota. We'll come back to the main reason why. There was one not very good performance that we'll get to along the offensive line. But I don't even think Landon Jaxson had a great week of practice, but then he got going when it mattered the most, and that certainly should not be overlooked. Who do you think was the biggest Senior Bowl winner this year? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. It's the pinned comment. The ad comes here on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Let's talk more Senior Bowl winners. Darius Alexander, the Toledo pass rusher, had himself a very strong showing as well. 8 TFLs for sacks this past year for Toledo, the Rocket defensive lineman. Seemingly shed some weight a little bit going into this. Had a really nice TFL early in the game and was really strong throughout the big practice. Even Jim Nagy mentioned Gray Zabel, Darius Alexander as two of the top players this week. Nagy, by the way, is the director of the Senior Bowl. I like fun stories, so I'm going to include Danny Strigow in this one. He got a call at midnight the night before the final day of practices. He flew right down, basically went from the plane to the practice field, and had a pretty good day. He's not going to be an early round pick or anything, but fun stories are part of this, so I wanted to give him some love. Tez Johnson, the Oregon wide receiver. I will rant a little bit on the releases from some of these receivers in terms of the routes and packages. The Senior Bowl, the practice in particular, set up perfectly for somebody like Tez Johnson. He's not a very big player, but he's shifty, he's fast. They can't really jam you the same way maybe they can in the NFL at Senior Bowl practices, and he cooked. Now, the TikTok releases that were far too common at this week's practices, whatever, but Tez is a kind of stretched out Tank Dell is maybe the best way to describe him there. Had a good year for Oregon. Not as productive as he was back in 2023, but, a downgrading quarterback, frankly. Cut down on some drop issues as well. Everyone will link him to Denver because he is Bo Nix's adopted brother. All right, other wide receiver winners. Jalen Royals had a good practice. Jalen Noel, the Iowa State receiver, and his teammate Jaden Higgins had one heck of a catch, by the way, on, we'll talk about the trick passes that happened in this game, but Higgins had a good week. And Kyle Williams looked pretty shifty as well at wide receiver out of Washington State. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. The big game is almost here, and it is now or never. Do not miss out on the last football game of the season. Make sure you get in on the action with Prize Picks. This is one of my Prize Picks big game slates. Patrick Mahomes, more than a half passing yard. It's the free square. Put it on every single one, or you're just not being smart. Saquon Barkley, more than rushing yards, and Xavier Worthy, more than yards on the ground, like the reverse option for him. That would be a very Andy Reid type of play. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That $50 is guaranteed. Win or lose, you get it once you place that $5 lineup. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Let's go to your Senior Bowl MVP, Jack Bech, the TCU wide receiver, wearing his late brother number, Tiger Bech, who unfortunately was killed in the New Orleans New Year's Eve attack. What a story for Jack Bech to finish off the game-winning walk-off touchdown, by the way. He finishes in this game 6 catches, 68 yards, and a score. The only receiver to catch a pass from a quarterback. On the American team, I should say. There were a couple trick plays involved there. Jack Bech has a really great ability to win contested catches. It showed up repeatedly this week. There's a very real chance he goes top 75. His teammate Savion Williams also very impressive. Not the Senior Bowl, but Jack Bech had himself a very strong game. 68 yards, only 4 yards after the catch. Sums up his game quite well. Hats off to Jack Bech. In a class that features a bunch of good tight ends and had a bunch of good tight ends at the Senior Bowl, everyone loved Harold Fannin for good reasons. I think Elijah Arroyo out of Miami had probably the most impressive week of anybody. Did not play in the game, but he moved incredibly well, consistently got open, looked more fluid and athletic than Fannin did. I think tight end 3 is kind of up in the air. There's a lot of options. Fannin, Elijah Arroyo. I think Gunnar Helms in conversation. Maybe Mason Taylor was also at the Senior Bowl. Arroyo kind of gave himself a shot to be that option there. Didn't play a lot early in his career. Injuries a big factor there. Had a breakout season for the Hurricanes. I am going to put Josh Connolly on this list, and that one is probably a bit controversial in part because of the very notable rep in which Mike Green ran right through him. Was on the bad end of that viral clip, but I thought he responded well throughout the week and didn't seem to let that one bad rep hurt him. It's one-on-ones. You're going to have bad reps. That's how it goes. You're never going to – when you do about 1,000, you go top 5 and or you opt out after one day and say, I'm done. I don't need to do anything else. I think Connolly's a chance to go in the first round. I want to mention a linebacker. I think linebackers and running backs are a little bit tough to really get a good feel for during the practice because you're not really tackling overall. But I thought Jeffrey Bassa was obvious in space that you can see he is a very gifted athlete. And former safety, that kind of makes some sense. He would have had a sack early, except I don't know if he forgot it was not two-hand touch, but he had a free run on, I think, what wasn't supposed to be a blitz, but he kind of just read the play properly and just kind of let Riley Leonard go by him. It would have been a huge sack, and he just kind of tapped him and didn't destroy him, which maybe was him being nice. All right, your next winner. The Senior Bowl was unique this year. How about trick plays? 2 different running back touchdown passes by the American team in this one. Ollie Gordon throwing, by both teams, Ollie Gordon for the national team, a 32-yard touchdown pass to Jaden Higgins to kind of start the scoring. R.J. Harvey, the UCF back, who I thought, by the way, both guys ran the ball pretty well. They were the leading rushers on each of their respective teams. But by the way, R.J. Harvey, who was a quarterback initially, did not move from back until he transferred to Central Florida, had a 25-yard touchdown pass to Ty Felton out of Maryland. I don't know if I've ever seen a trick play in the Senior Bowl, but it was fun. Some corners, DBs, I want to give some love to. I think Quincy Riley is an underrated player. Upton Stout is undersized, but a tough physical nickel. Azrai Thomas out of Florida State. I think I might have botched that name. Sorry. Wayne Thomas's brother. Long wing corner, a good week. Macbick Williams wasn't perfect in game, but had a good week of practice as well. Now, we will have more NFL draft coverage for you right here on the channel. Hit that sub button if you haven't already. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Before we get to losers, I just want to talk quarterbacks here because a lot of times I think the Senior Bowl week is, when it comes to QBs in particular, I think people tend to see what they want to see because there are good reps and not so great reps. So there were 7 quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl this year. Jaxson Dart from Ole Miss, Tyler Shuck from Louisville, Jalen Milroe from Alabama, Riley Leonard from Notre Dame, Seth Hennigan from Memphis, who actually led the game-winning drive in the end, Dylan Gabriel from Oregon, and then Canadians, or a Canadian, Taylor Elrisma, who I don't really, because I haven't watched him because I don't have Canadian film. Didn't look that great to me. 4 of 7 for the one big chunk play through the air, 57 yards, but that was kind of it in the end. This class does not impress me. I think the likely first quarterback taken from this group, I think should be first quarterback taken, is Jaxson Dart. Didn't play a lot in the game. Kind of one of those, like, does he need to? Is he supposed to? 1 of 3 for 39 yards. It was a trick play on the bomb for Dart that he found. Jack Bech made an unreal catch. It was an underthrown flea flicker. Bech with a defender in his frame and hand on the ball, pulls it away from him. Dart leads that 5 yards further upfield. It's a touchdown over the shoulder. Took a sack, fumbled. It happens. I'm not too mad about that one. I think you make a real argument. Dart's probably quarterback 3 in this class. He has the tools. He has some arm strength. Has some mobility. But he's not the biggest quarterback in Australia. He has good frame, not big height, if that makes sense. Like, I think he's a late day 2, early day 3 quarterback. The round 1 buzz makes no sense to me. I don't see it. Now, Tyler Shuck spent 7 years in college. So, that feels like cheating. They're called doctors, I'm told. 9 of 13, 62 yards, bad interception, did throw a touchdown pass. This is a day 3 guy. Jalen Milroe was 3 of 5, 21 yards. He was terrible to begin the week of practices. Like, at times it felt like he just looked like he wasn't comfortable, period. Now, most quarterbacks struggle in the first day and get better as things go along. Mostly happened with Milroe, but he needs like 2 years. I kind of think Dart might need 2 years as well. Milroe's got the athletic ability. He's a freak athlete. He can run run straight downfield. Probably one of the fastest guys there, frankly. But the consistent passing never really has been shown. Riley Leonard was 6 of 7 for 54 yards. It's kind of who he is. It's also worth mentioning, by the way, you don't get to do exotic defenses. It's just very like vanilla defenses. So a quarterback like Leonard, doing a lot of underneath stuff, that makes sense. And I'll give some love to Seth Hennigan. 12 of 14 for 132 and a score. Did have a fumble that I don't think was his fault. I think it was a bad snap. But he led him down the field for a game when it was like an 80-yard drive or something, 83-yard drive, or 85-yard drive. That's impressive. Maybe he gets drafted, though. Dylan Gabriel was also just like kind of classic Dylan Gabriel, 4 of 6, 28 yards. Should have been picked as well. This quarterback class, I just don't believe in it. One of them will probably prove me wrong at minimum. It's how it normally goes. But I'm not banking more than like a day 3 pick on these Senior Bowl guys. I don't think that's a bet I'm going to win. Now, I think you have 2 quarterbacks going round 1. I don't buy the Jaxson Dart hype. But then I get into by the Bo Nix, Michael Penix hype, and I look pretty stupid there. How many quarterbacks do you think should go in round 1? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Some Senior Bowl losers. Not all because of their on-field play, by the way. Unfortunately, Armand Bembou out of Missouri had a really bad flu bug. And, it's one of those where I can't keep anything down, so how are you supposed to play, basically? Which sucks. I think he would have been very impressive at the Senior Bowl and kind of missed opportunity to really wow some people, at least from like a media perspective, fan perspective. I don't want to be mean. I'm trying to be nicer as I age. Carson Wentz and Raleigh A&M, boy, those defenders had him in hell. Like, the national team was beating him constantly. Landon Jackson just destroyed him repeatedly. Other edge rushers, UCLA's guy, Vincent just looked outmatched. Looked like he was not ready for the jumping competition. So That's one of those that I'm going to, when I get to him on the draft study, I'm going to go, okay, bad Senior Bowl. There's a line from Brian Broaddus, former NFL exec, of these FCS guys, these small school guys, got to walk on water because they got to be perfect because of the level of competition coming. It was not the case for Carson Vincent, unfortunately. Now, Princely Omamion did have a half sack in the game. I thought he was going to cook at the Senior Bowl practices, and that wasn't really the case. And that surprises me because I saw 2023 got better in 2024. I saw good pass rush ability. And it wasn't as like, I thought like Omamion could play so well in practice, he opted out of the game itself. And that's not what ended up happening, unfortunately. Still like him, though, but didn't rise what I hoped he was. Put Deion Walker probably in a similar category, too, at Kentucky. So drop a name for me. It's your turn to be mean in the comments section. Name a Senior Bowl loser. Unfortunately, injuries also a part of this. It's never fun. It doesn't sound too bad for Trey Amos, the Bama-turned-Ole Miss corner. Reportedly had a minor ankle injury. We'll know more at the combine with the severity there. And then Green Reed, I don't know what it was. Broadcast didn't really go much into depth there. Some type of leg injury, ankle, whatever it was in the fourth quarter. Hopefully he is okay. And then I'm going to rant here real quick. The kickers were terrible. They were not good at all practice week, by the way. Mike Kafka had some garbage clock management, called a timeout with the clock running on 1st and goal with the opposing team trying to get in the end zone. If he hadn't called the timeout, they would have won the game. They didn't have enough time otherwise. Really weird. And then my buddy Corey Keenan put this out too. And Lamar Jackson tweeted about it, and Andrew Hawkins. These, like, I call them TikTok route running. This, like, you're just kind of standing there, like, just kind of shaking your legs around, moving in place. Stop it. Do real routes. This works in these like 7-on-7 drill stuff. You got to run real routes at the goal line, man. You can't just like dance around for 5 seconds and expect your quarterback to not be on the ground. Lamar Jackson was right. As soon as he sees that stuff, every quarterback's scrambling. Let's not teach it that way because it doesn't actually work in the games.